Morning! These are the Bighorn Mountains, and I'm going to break here to talk a little anime.
Pat Labor, the TV series.
Pat Labor is a character-oriented sci-fi mecha anime. The TV series began in 1989 following the successful manga and 7-part OVA debut, which I've already discussed. Back in 1989, Pat Labor imagined the industrial world of 1999 to be filled with heavy new construction robots called labors. When these labors became to be used in crime as well, the Tokyo police formed a special vehicles division using Pat Labors, a portmanteau of patrol labor. Well, that sci-fi vision didn't exactly come true on time, any more than 2001 gave us a moon base and a trip to Saturn, so you're going to have to adjust your time frame forward another 10 years. The first episode introduces the cast of characters. If you've never watched the original OVAs, that's fine. The introductory TV episode has a slightly different take on the story anyway. Pat Labor is light action fare, with stories that range from the humorous to the serious. However, it's always the characters that make it entertaining. While the show has a pretty sizable cast, the star is Noa Izumi. She's a bright young hard-working police cadet with a talent for machines. She's quickly become the pilot for the latest model Pat Labor, the Ingram, and she affectionately names her machine Alphonse. She's going to be partnered with Officer Asuma Shinohara, a bright young man who happens to be the wayward son of a wealthy industrial tycoon who happens to own the company that makes most of the labors in Japan. During operations, he'll provide tactical information to pilot Noa. The other Pat Labor pilot is Oda, who's Noah's complete opposite in personality, an aggressive, trigger-happy cop spoiling for a good fight. The unit's commander is Captain Goto. At first glance, he seems a lazy slacker, more interested in horse racing and sneaking a cigarette than doing police work, but he's also a clever strategist, and he's good at motivating his motley band of officers with an understated command. In the first episode, the officers of SV2 first meet Noah when they're waiting for the delivery of their new Pat Labor from the factory. The transport truck bringing it is hijacked en route, and Cadet Izumi takes this personally and takes the initiative in trying to get it back.
The target is on Koshu Highway, heading for Takao, but...
What?
There's an officer in pursuit of the target, sir. A female officer.
Female?
Well, help her out if you can.
You want me to...
Help her out?
Puh.
Give me back my Pat Labor!
The series will quickly begin to flesh out the much larger cast of characters, including other officers and the mechanics from the SV2, and eventually some other police officers, JSDF pilots, family, TV reporters, and of course some bad guys. Episode 2 introduces NYPD officer Kanaka Clancy, who has a temporary assignment with SV2 to study Japanese police methods with labors. She's sharp and very competent, and has a mysterious, almost menacing edge to her personality that makes the rest of the group a little nervous. She's a regular for the first half of the series. The TV series ran 47 episodes, so this isn't a series you're going to sit down and watch on a single rainy weekend, or even over a single week. The stories vary from amusing to exciting, and several guest writers contributed scripts along the way. Although some of these stories are obviously more engaging than others, I can only think of one that I didn't really enjoy. The others are all consistently entertaining. I'm going to highlight a few of my favorites here. The earlier episodes are generally played for humor as we get to know the characters, but it's always a gentle and affectionate humor. The characters all have personality traits that are easy to exaggerate and poke a little fun at, but not in such a way that they become mere cartoonish caricatures. That lets us sympathize with their anxieties and care about them when they face challenges later, even if we laugh at them from time to time. There's no special grand overarching plot line to the series, though as the series goes on, these characters and their relationships will slowly grow and evolve. As they get to know each other, we get to know them too. Whether the story involves chasing a village's legendary sea monster, stopping a drunken construction worker from settling his differences with a labor in the middle of downtown Tokyo, thwarting a terrorist, or just watching Oda go awkwardly on a blind date, it's really my affection for these splendid characters that keep me watching the series. Episodes 10 and 11 form the first two-part story, and the first time it gets serious. It introduces what will become a recurring plot involving another nefarious rival labor manufacturer, and it'll also introduce some JSDF military units. That storyline will reprise in another serious two-parter later in episodes 20 and 21. Episode 12 is a change of pace for Oda's fans as he returns home to go on a blind date arranged by his parents in the hopes of getting him married. Midway through the series, Kanaka Clancy will leave the SV2 to return to New York, though she'll show up later for a few guest appearances. Soon the series will introduce Lieutenant Kumagami as Oda's new partner. The 8-part Griffin episodes are well worth mentioning. They're the show's longest running and most serious segment. No matter how destructive the SV2's actions have seemed, the violence in Pat Labor has always been rather comic, which means despite the crushed cars and collapsed buildings, no one ever gets badly hurt or killed. Until now. Episode 28 will introduce Mr. Itsumi, a curious labor researcher from a company called Shaft. He's developed a hot new labor, codenamed Griffin. He and his child protege pilot, Bud, return in episodes 30 through 36. Their aim in this tense and complicated story isn't so much destruction as it is industrial research, but they'll be Noah's biggest challenge as circumstances will place the weight of dealing with them squarely on her shoulders.
何をしてるの?
気合い入れてるんじゃないの? しっかりせんかこら。どうした？おい。
Unfortunately, the Griffin storyline spans 3 DVDs in USMC's release set, numbers 7 through 9. Episode 44, Clat, or the Combat Labor Attack Team, is another fan favorite. It's a twisted, self-parody, imaginary story, sort of Pat Labor NYPD comedy. Surprisingly, even though Noah's the star of this ensemble cast, we hardly ever get to see her outside of work until late in the series. We'll have met Kanaka's grandmother, Asuma's friends at Shinohara Heavy Industries, Shinshi's wife, and Oda's family early on. But it isn't until the very last 4 episodes that we finally get a look into Noah's life outside of the Special Vehicles division. Pat Labor was created by the team of artists called Headgear. Masami Yuki created the Pat Labor concept in manga. That manga's been translated and published in the US by Viz. The creative team for the anime TV series is almost the same as it was for the original OVA series. The director this time is Naoyuki Moshinaga, who directed the 7th OVA in the original series, and earlier worked on such things as the Maison Ikkoku TV series, and more recently worked on Parasite Dolls OVAs. Kazunori Ito, who wrote the original 7 OVAs, is the series' chief writer again. Several other writers contributed to this series, including Michi Yuri, who wrote several Pat Labor novels, Mamoru Oshii, who directed the earlier Pat Labor OVA series and the movie, and Hiroyuki Yoshiyama, who wrote the Megazone 2-3 OVAs. Kenji Kawai's music returns from the OVAs as well. Although there's plenty of original scoring here, you'll also recognize some of the theme crossovers from the Pat Labor movie. He's provided some excellent music for the emotional, mysterious, and action segments, and especially for the tension-building scenes in some of the more serious episodes. Plus, there are some little ditties for the sillier moments. The TV series retains the wonderfully expressive character designs from Akemi Takada and the same mechanical designs from Yutaki Izubuchi. The animation is by Sunrise, and it's outstanding for a TV series of 20 years ago. Overall, I give the Pat Labor TV series 4.5 stars. It creates a world of unique and engaging characters who are just plain fun to watch in just about any situation. I know it's a long series, but it's well worth sampling. Who knows, you may even end up watching the whole thing. USMC used the same voice cast for the TV series as they did for the original OVAs, so it sounds consistent. I still thought the dub was a little stilted, but mostly I'm just used to the Japanese voices for these characters from before there was a dub, so I usually stick with the Japanese soundtrack with English subtitles. USMC has collected all 47 episodes onto 11 DVDs, and then they've bundled them into 3 box sets. The early DVDs include some extras, including some text on Pat Labor's background, creator profiles, and some background scenes in the English dubbing studio. Plus, there's some complimentary DVD-ROM material that you can use from Windows. The Pat Labor franchise also released a movie during the TV series run, and later a new OVA series, and then 2 more movies. I'll get to all that presently.
Thanks for listening.